Imagine this. You wake up one morning. It's quiet, different. Not because something is wrong, but because something feels missing. You sit up, look around. Same room, same walls, same life. But something inside you feels heavier. You check your phone. Messages, notifications, nothing unusual. But then you notice the date. You pause. You stare at it a little longer than usual. 40. You're 40 now. And suddenly, everything hits differently. Not dramatically, not loudly, but deeply. You feel it, a weight, a quiet realization that time didn't stop. That all those days, those months, those years, they didn't wait for you. They moved, fast, and now you're here. Not where you thought you'd be, not who you thought you'd become. And that's when it starts. The questions, the ones you've been avoiding, the ones you pushed aside, the ones you didn't want to think about. Is this really my life? Did I actually live the way I wanted? Did I use my time or just spend it? And the hardest one, did I waste it? Because at 20, you think you have time. At 25, you still believe there's more ahead. At 30, you start to feel pressure, but you tell yourself, I'll figure it out. But at 40, there's no illusion left. There's clarity, brutal clarity. Because now you can see the pattern. You can see the years. You can see the decisions. And more importantly, you can see what you didn't do. The chances you didn't take, the risks you avoided, the things you wanted but never started. Not because you couldn't, but because you didn't. You were waiting, waiting for the right time, waiting to feel ready, waiting for everything to be perfect. But it never was. And now that waiting has a cost, a real one. Because time doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't pause. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It moves relentlessly. And every day you delay, every day you hesitate, every day you choose comfort over action, you're trading something. Not money, not opportunity, but time. And time is the only thing you can't get back. At 40, you feel that, not as a concept, but as a reality. Because now you can look back, you can measure it, you can see exactly where you could have changed things, but didn't. And that's where regret begins. Not loud, not obvious, but quiet, persistent, always there. In small thoughts, in random moments, in late nights, when everything slows down and you can't distract yourself anymore. That voice shows up. What if? What if you started earlier? What if you didn't wait? What if you actually tried? And those questions, they don't leave, because now they have weight, because now they matter, because now you know the answer. You know what could have been, and that's what hurts. Not failure, not mistakes, but missed chances. Because failure at least means you tried, at least means you moved, at least means you gave yourself a chance. But regret is different. Regret comes from inaction, from hesitation, from waiting too long, from knowing you could have done something, but choosing not to. And that realization, it's heavy, because you can't fix the past, you can't go back, you can't undo the years. All you can do is face it and decide what happens next. But here's the problem. Most people don't. They feel it, they recognize it, but they don't change. Because even at 40, they're still waiting, still hesitating, still telling themselves it's too late. And that's the final trap. Because now it's not just time, it's belief. The belief that you missed your chance, that you're behind, that you can't catch up. And that belief, it keeps you stuck, even when you still have time.
Because the truth is, 40 is not the end, but it's a wake-up call, a moment where you either face reality or continue avoiding it. And what you choose in that moment determines everything, because you still have time, not unlimited, not infinite, but enough. Enough to change, enough to rebuild, enough to create something different, but only if you stop waiting. Because waiting is what got you here. Waiting is what created the regret. Waiting is what made you feel like time disappeared. So if you keep waiting, nothing changes. You'll just move forward with the same pattern, the same hesitation, the same excuses, until one day it's not 40 anymore, it's 50, and the weight becomes heavier, the regret becomes deeper, the questions become louder, and the time becomes shorter. So ask yourself, right now, not at 40, not in the future, but today, what am I waiting for? Because whatever your answer is, that's the thing holding you back. That's the thing stealing your time. That's the thing you need to face. Because the clock is moving, whether you act or not, whether you're ready or not, whether you realize it or not. And one day, you'll feel it, just like this. That quiet morning, that heavy realization, that moment where everything becomes clear. And when that day comes, you'll either look back with pride or with regret. And that choice, it's not made at 40, it's made today. You don't say no to your dreams. You don't reject them. You don't completely walk away from them. You do something worse. You delay them. I'll start next week. I'll do it when I have more time. I just need to figure things out first. I'm not ready yet. And every time you say that, it feels harmless. It feels reasonable. It feels like you're not giving up, just waiting. But that's the illusion, because delay is the most dangerous form of denial. It doesn't look like quitting. It doesn't feel like failure. It feels like planning, like preparation, like you're still in control. But you're not. Because while you're waiting, time is moving, quietly, consistently, without asking you. And every day you delay, you're not staying in the same place. You're falling behind, not compared to others, but compared to your own potential. Because the version of you that could have started today won't exist tomorrow. That moment, that opportunity, that energy, it passes, and it doesn't come back the same way. But your mind, it convinces you otherwise. It tells you, there's still time. You can start any time. You're not missing anything. And you believe it. Because it's comfortable. Because it removes pressure. Because it allows you to stay where you are. But comfort is not neutral. Comfort has a cost, a silent one. Because every day you choose comfort over action, you reinforce a pattern of delay, a pattern of hesitation, a pattern of waiting for the perfect moment. But the perfect moment doesn't exist. It never did. It never will. Because starting will always feel uncomfortable. It will always feel uncertain. It will always feel like you're not fully ready. And that's normal. That's part of it. But instead of accepting that, you wait. You wait for confidence. You wait for clarity. You wait for motivation. But those things, they don't come before action. They come after. Confidence comes from doing. Clarity comes from experience. Motivation comes from progress. But if you never start, you never get any of them. So you stay stuck. Not because you can't move, but because you keep choosing not to. And you justify it. You tell yourself, this is not the right time. I have other priorities. I'll do it when things are better. But things never become perfect. Life doesn't suddenly clear a path for you. It doesn't remove all obstacles. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It keeps moving, with or without you. And that's the part you don't realize. You think you're delaying action, but what you're actually doing is delaying your life. Because your life is not something that starts later. It's happening now. Every decision, every action, every moment is shaping it. So when you delay, you're not pausing your life. You're choosing a direction of inaction, of waiting, of staying the same. And over time, that becomes your identity, the person who plans but doesn't act, the person who thinks but doesn't move, the person who wants more but never starts. And that identity, it's dangerous, because the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to change. Because now, it's not just a habit, it's who you are. And breaking that requires effort, real effort, the kind that most people avoid. So they stay, they keep delaying, they keep waiting, and they tell themselves, one day. But one day is not a real day. It's an idea, a comfortable lie, a way to avoid taking action today. Because if you were serious, you wouldn't wait for one day, you would use today. Because today is the only thing you actually have. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. Today. And what you do with it matters more than anything. Because today becomes tomorrow, tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year. And before you realize it, years pass, just like that, without you noticing, without you feeling it, until one day you wake up, and it's not early anymore. It's not the beginning anymore. It's later, much later. And that's when it hits, that everything you delayed, everything you postponed, everything you said later to, it didn't disappear. It just didn't happen. And that's the regret. Not what you did, but what you didn't do. Because you thought you had time. Because you believed the lie, I'll start later. So now you have to break it. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because the longer you wait, the stronger the pattern becomes, the harder it becomes to act, the easier it becomes to stay the same. So you interrupt it, right now, with one decision, to stop waiting, to stop delaying, to stop telling yourself there's time. Because there is, but not unlimited. And the more you waste, the less you have. So stop protecting your comfort. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop telling yourself later, because later is the reason you're still here. And if you don't change it, it will be the reason you regret everything. So start, not perfectly, not completely, but honestly, because the only thing worse than failing is never starting at all. And that's the truth most people realize too late.
You keep telling yourself, there's still time. You say it casually, without thinking, like it's a fact, like it's guaranteed, like it's something you can rely on. And that belief, it feels safe. It removes pressure. It gives you space to delay, to wait, to not act right now. Because in your mind, there's always later, there's always tomorrow, there's always another chance. But that's not reality. That's an illusion, a very convincing one. Because time doesn't feel real when you have it. It only feels real when you start losing it. At 18, time feels endless. At 25, it still feels like there's a lot ahead. At 30, you start noticing it, but you still believe there's enough. But then it speeds up, not physically, but psychologically. Days start blending, weeks feel shorter, years pass faster, and you don't understand why. Because nothing changed outside, but something changed inside, your perception. Because as you grow, time feels faster. Because your brain stops noticing the details, stops slowing things down, stops making moments feel long.
So everything feels like it's moving quickly, and before you realize it, years are gone. Not because you wasted them intentionally, but because you assumed they would always be there. And that's the trap. You don't feel urgency until it's too late, because your mind protects you from it. It tells you, relax, there's time. You don't need to rush. And that sounds good. That sounds reasonable, but it's not accurate. Because while you're relaxing, time is moving. While you're waiting, time is moving. While you're thinking, time is moving. And it doesn't slow down for you. It doesn't pause just because you're not ready. It keeps going, with or without your action. And that's the part you ignore, because you can't see it, you can't feel it, not immediately. But it's happening every single day, every single moment, and it adds up quietly until one day you look back and you realize you don't have as much time as you thought. And that's when the illusion breaks. That's when you feel it, not as an idea, but as reality. That time is limited, that opportunities are not endless, that moments don't repeat, and that realization, it changes everything. But by then, some of the time is already gone, and that's the problem. You wait for urgency instead of creating it. You wait to feel pressure instead of understanding reality, and by the time you feel it, you've already lost something, something you can't get back. Because time is not like money. You can't earn it again. You can't recover it. You can't replace it. Once it's gone forever. And that's what makes it valuable. Not how much you have, but how fast it disappears. But you don't treat it like that. You treat it like it's unlimited, like you can always start later, like you can always fix things later, like you can always change later. But later is not guaranteed. And even if it comes, it won't be the same. Because you won't be the same. Your energy changes. Your responsibilities increase. Your time becomes more limited. Your priorities shift. And things that were easy before become harder later. Things that were possible before become complicated. And things you could have done earlier become difficult later. That's reality. But you don't think about that, because right now it feels like you have time. Right now it feels like there's no rush. Right now it feels like you can wait. But that feeling is misleading, because time doesn't announce itself. It doesn't warn you. It doesn't tell you you're running out. It just moves, silently, constantly, until one day you notice, and by then it's not the same anymore. So what do? You stop relying on feeling. You stop waiting to feel urgency, because you won't, not until it's too late. Instead, you create awareness. You remind yourself that time is limited, that every day matters, that every decision counts, not in a stressful way, but in a real way. Because once you understand that, you move differently, you think differently, you act differently. You stop delaying, you stop waiting, you stop assuming there's always more time, because you know there isn't, not unlimited, not infinite. And that changes everything. Because now you're not careless with your time. You're intentional. You don't waste it. You use it. You don't delay. You act. Because you understand that what you do today shapes everything. And what you don't do also shapes everything. Because inaction is still a decision to stay the same, to not move, to not change, and that decision has consequences, not immediately, but over time. And those consequences, they show up later, when you least expect it, in the form of regret, in the form of missed opportunities, in the form of a life that doesn't feel right. And that's what you want to avoid. Not by rushing, not by panicking, but by being aware, by understanding the truth that time is not something you have, it's something you're using right now. And once it's used, it's gone. So use it wisely. Because the illusion that there's always more time is the reason most people realize too late that they had less than they thought.
It's not failure. It's not losing money. It's not even the mistakes you made. Those things, they hurt, but they fade. They become stories, lessons, memories you can learn from. But there's something else, something deeper, something heavier, something that doesn't fade, something that stays with you, quietly, constantly, and hits you when everything slows down. It's regret. Not loud, not obvious, but real. The kind that doesn't show up in public, the kind that doesn't need attention, the kind that lives inside you and reminds you of what could have been. Because at 40, you don't just see your life, you see your missed life, the one you could have built, the one you thought about, the one you imagined, but never acted on. And that's what hurts the most. Not what you did, but what you didn't. The things you wanted to start, but delayed. The risks you wanted to take, but avoided. The opportunities you had, but ignored. Not because you couldn't, but because you didn't. Because you were waiting, waiting for the right time, waiting to feel ready, waiting for everything to line up perfectly. But it never did. And now, those chances, they're gone. Not completely, but they're not the same. Because time changes things. It changes your energy, your responsibilities, your options, your flexibility. Things that were easy before become harder. Things that were possible before become complicated. And that's when it hits. That realization that you had a window, a moment, an opportunity, and you let it pass. And that feeling, it's heavy. Because you can't go back. You can't rewind. You can't redo those moments. All you can do is remember them. And that's where the pain comes from. Not from failure, but from imagination. From thinking, what if? What if I started earlier? What if I took that risk? What if I didn't wait? And those questions, they don't leave because they don't have answers, only possibilities, only versions of a life that could have existed, but doesn't. And that's what hurts. Because now you can see it clearly. You can see the path you didn't take, the version of yourself you didn't become, the life you didn't build. And it's not a fantasy. It's real. It was possible. You just didn't act. And that's the truth most people avoid. Because it's uncomfortable. Because it's painful. Because it forces you to take responsibility. To admit that it wasn't time. It wasn't luck. It wasn't circumstances. It was you. Your hesitation. Your delay. Your decision to wait. And that realization, it changes how you see everything. Because now you understand something deeper. That time was never the problem. Your choices were. And that's hard to accept. Because it removes the excuses. It removes the blame. It leaves you with the truth. And the truth is, you had more control than you thought. You had more opportunity than you realized. You had more time than you used.
but you didn't see it. Not then, only now. Only when it's different. Only when it's harder. Only when it's too late to do it the same way. And that's the pain of regret. It doesn't come when you're in the moment. It comes after, when you can finally see clearly, when you can finally understand, when you can finally connect the dots. But by then, the moment is gone. And that's why regret hurts more than failure. Because failure means you tried, you moved, you took a step, even if it didn't work. But regret means you didn't even try. You stayed still, you waited, you let fear win. And that's a different kind of pain, a deeper one. Because it's not about what happened, it's about what didn't. And that stays with you, in quiet moments, in late nights, in conversations with yourself. When you look back and realize you could have done more, you could have been more, you could have lived differently, but you didn't. And now you have to live with that. That version of yourself that never existed, that potential that was never used, that life that was never built. And that's what hurts the most at 40. Not what you lost, but what you never created. So now, ask yourself, not in the future, not at 40, but right now, what are you not doing? What are you delaying? What are you avoiding? Because whatever it is, that's your future regret. That's the thing you'll think about later. That's the thing you'll wish you started earlier. And you still have time. Right now. Not later. Not someday. Now. To change that. To act. To move. To create something you won't regret. Because the pain of effort is temporary. But the pain of regret lasts forever. And the choice between them, it's yours, today.
You think opportunity is obvious, something big, something clear, something you can see. Like a perfect moment, a perfect chance, a perfect situation where everything lines up and you just step in. But that's not how it works. Real opportunities, they don't look like that. They don't announce themselves. They don't wait for you. They don't feel perfect. Most of the time, they look small, unclear, uncomfortable, easy to ignore. And that's why you miss them. Not because they're rare, but because they're invisible to the way you're thinking right now. Because you're waiting for something bigger, something obvious, something that feels right. But life doesn't give you that. It gives you moments, small ones, every day. Moments where you could start something, learn something, try something, change something. But you don't, because those moments, they don't feel important. They don't feel urgent. They don't feel like they matter. So you skip them, you delay them, you ignore them, and you move on. But those small moments, they add up. They build something, not instantly, but over time. Because success is not one big decision. It's thousands of small ones, repeated, consistently. And every time you ignore one, you're not just missing that moment, you're missing what it could become. Because every opportunity has a chain reaction, a path, a direction that leads somewhere. But only if you take it. If you don't, that path disappears. Not dramatically, not visibly, but quietly. And you never even realize what you lost, because you never saw it clearly. You never felt its importance. You never understood what it could turn into. So you think nothing happened, but something did. You lost a version of your future, a better version, a different version, a version that only existed if you acted, but you didn't. And that happens every day. Every time you choose comfort over action, every time you choose distraction over focus, every time you choose easy over meaningful, you lose something. Not visibly, but internally, in your progress, in your growth, in your direction. And the problem is, you don't feel it immediately. There's no pain,
no consequence, no signal telling you you just missed something important. So you keep doing it again and again and again. And over time, it becomes your pattern, your default, your lifestyle. And that's when the real loss happens. Because now, you're not just missing opportunities, you're becoming someone who misses them, someone who hesitates, someone who delays, someone who ignores what could change everything. And that identity, it's dangerous. Because now, even when a real opportunity shows up, you don't take it because you're used to not acting. You're used to waiting. You're used to staying where you are. And that keeps you stuck. Not because life didn't give you chances, but because you didn't take them. And one day, you'll look back and you'll realize it wasn't that opportunities were rare. It's that you didn't recognize them. You didn't value them. You didn't act on them. And that's the regret. Not what you missed knowingly, but what you missed without realizing. Because those are the hardest to accept. Because you can't even remember them. You can't point to them. You can't say that was the moment. Because they were small, hidden, quiet. But they mattered. More than you think. Because your life is built from those moments. Not big ones, small ones. Repeated, daily, consistently. So if you keep ignoring them, you keep building the same life, the same routine, the same results, the same future. And that's the real danger. Not losing one opportunity, but losing hundreds without noticing until it's too late, until you look back and realize you could have done more. You could have been more. You could have created something different. But you didn't, because you didn't act when it mattered. And the truth is, it matters now, right now, this moment, because this moment is one of those opportunities. Not obvious, not perfect, but real. A chance to start, a chance to move, a chance to change something, even slightly, even imperfectly, because that's how it begins. Not with big decisions, but with small ones, taken seriously, taken consistently, taken now. Because if you wait, you lose it, just like all the others, quietly, silently, without warning. And one day, you'll feel it, not as a single loss, but as a collection of missed moments, missed chances, missed opportunities that could have changed everything, but didn't, because you didn't act when it mattered. And the truth is, it matters now, right now, this moment, because this moment is one of those opportunities. Not obvious, not perfect, but real. A chance to start, a chance to move, a chance to change something, even slightly, even imperfectly, because that's how it begins. Not with big decisions, but with small ones, taken seriously, taken consistently, taken now. Because if you wait, you lose it, just like all the others, quietly, silently, without warning. And one day, you'll feel it, not as a single loss, but as a collection of missed moments, missed chances, missed opportunities that could have changed everything, but didn't, because you didn't act when it mattered. And the truth is, it matters now, right now, this moment, because this moment is one of those opportunities. Not obvious, not perfect, but real. A chance to start, a chance to move, a chance to change something, even slightly, even imperfectly, because that's how it begins. Not with big decisions, but with small ones, taken seriously, taken consistently, taken now.
You don't feel it. That's the problem. There's no alarm, no warning, no pain that tells you something is wrong. Everything feels fine, comfortable, stable, predictable. You wake up, follow your routine, do what you usually do. Nothing too stressful, nothing too difficult, nothing too uncomfortable. And that feels good, safe, controlled, like you're doing things right. But you're not seeing the full picture, because comfort is not harmless. It's not neutral. It's not something you can stay in forever without consequences. Because comfort comes with a cost, a silent one, a slow one, a dangerous one. Because while you're comfortable, you're not growing. While you're comfortable,
You're not pushing yourself. While you're comfortable, you're staying exactly where you are. And that might not feel like a problem now, but over time, it becomes one. Because life doesn't stay still. It moves, it evolves, it changes. And if you don't move with it, you fall behind. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually, quietly, almost invisibly. Because comfort keeps you in place. It removes urgency. It removes pressure. It removes the need to do anything more. And that's what makes it dangerous, because it feels like nothing is wrong, but something is. You're not improving. You're not progressing. You're not becoming more. You're just maintaining, repeating, existing. And over time, that becomes your life, a loop, a pattern, a routine that feels safe but leads nowhere. And the worst part? You don't realize it, because there's no immediate consequence, no instant failure, no obvious loss. So you keep going. You stay comfortable. You stay where you are. And you tell yourself, this is fine. This is enough. This is normal. But normal is not always right. And fine is not the same as growth. Because growth requires discomfort. It requires effort. It requires you to step outside what feels easy, what feels familiar, what feels safe. And that's what you avoid. Because discomfort feels wrong. It feels stressful. It feels uncertain. It makes you question yourself. It challenges you. And your mind doesn't like that. It prefers comfort, because comfort means safety, no risk, no failure, no uncertainty. But it also means no progress, no change, no improvement. And that's the trade-off. You choose comfort and you lose growth. You choose ease and you lose potential. You choose safety and you lose opportunity. But you don't see that immediately. You only see it later, when the gap becomes obvious, when you look around and realize nothing has changed. Years have passed, but your life looks the same, feels the same, stays the same. And that's when it hits. That comfort was not protecting you. It was limiting you, slowly, quietly, without you noticing. And now you feel it. That frustration, that realization that you could have done more, you could have pushed yourself, you could have stepped out of what felt easy, but you didn't, because comfort was easier, because comfort was familiar, because comfort didn't require effort. And now that choice has consequences, because you can't get that time back. You can't go back and use it differently. You can only move forward with what you have now. And that's where the shift needs to happen, not by avoiding comfort completely, but by controlling it, by not letting it control you. Because comfort should be a place you visit, not a place you live. It should be temporary, not permanent. Because if you stay there too long, you stop growing, you stop evolving, you stop becoming. And that's what kills your future. Not failure, not mistakes, but staying the same. Because staying the same in a world that's constantly moving means going backwards. Even if it doesn't feel like it, even if it looks like everything is fine, it's not, because nothing is changing. And if nothing is changing, nothing is improving. So now you have to decide, stay comfortable and accept the consequences, or step out and create something different. Because growth will never happen inside your comfort zone. It never has. It never will. And if you wait for comfort to lead you somewhere better, you'll be waiting forever. Because comfort doesn't lead, it holds you in place. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave. Because now, it's not just your environment, it's your identity, your habits, your mindset. Everything becomes comfortable. And breaking that requires effort, real effort. the kind that feels uncomfortable, the kind that challenges you, the kind that forces you to grow. But that's the only way, because the life you want is not inside comfort, it's outside it, in the unknown, in the uncertainty, in the things you've been avoiding. So stop choosing comfort as your default. Stop staying where it feels easy. Stop telling yourself, this is enough, because deep down, you know it's not. You know you can do more. You know you can be more. You know there's something better, but you won't reach it by staying comfortable. You'll only reach it by stepping out, by pushing yourself, by choosing growth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because the truth is, comfort feels good now, but regret feels worse later. And the choice between them, it's yours, every single day.
It doesn't happen gradually. It doesn't warn you. It doesn't slowly build up. It hits you, all at once. A moment, a random, quiet moment where everything feels different. You're not doing anything special. Maybe you're sitting alone. Maybe you're driving. Maybe you're just scrolling on your phone. And suddenly, something shifts. Your mind slows down. Your thoughts change. And you feel it. That realization, sharp, clear, unavoidable. Time is not on your side anymore. And for a second, you freeze, because this isn't something you thought about seriously before. Not like this, not this clearly. You always knew time passes. You always heard it. People say it all the time. Time flies. Life is short. Don't waste your time. But those words, they never meant anything. Not deeply, not emotionally. They were just phrases, just things people say. Until this moment. Because now you feel it, not as words, but as reality. You think about your past, your years, your time, and it doesn't feel long. It feels fast, too fast, like it just happened, like you didn't even notice it. And that's what scares you. Because if it went that fast, what about the future? What about the next 10 years, the next 20? Will they feel the same? Will they disappear just as quickly? And deep down, you know the answer. Yes, they will. And that realization, it shakes you. Because now, you can't pretend anymore. You can't act like you have unlimited time. You can't tell yourself, there's always later. Because now, later feels closer, much closer, closer than you expected, closer than you're ready for. And that creates urgency, not forced, not artificial, real urgency, the kind you feel in your chest, the kind that makes you think, I need to do something. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep delaying. But here's the problem. That feeling, it doesn't last, not always, because your mind tries to protect you. It tries to calm you down. It tries to bring you back to comfort, to normal. It tells you, you're overthinking. You still have time. Relax. And slowly, that urgency fades. That realization becomes weaker. That moment disappears. And you go back to your routine, back to your privichki, back to your normal life. And that's the cycle. You feel it. You ignore it. You forget it. Until it happens again. Another moment, another realization, another shock. But each time, it gets stronger. Each time, it feels heavier. Because each time, there's less time left. And one day, it won't fade. One day, it won't go away. One day, it will stay. Because it will be too real, too obvious, too late to ignore. And that's the moment most people reach, when they finally understand that time is not something you manage, it's something you lose every single day, whether you notice it or not,
whether you use it or not, whether you value it or not. And once it's gone forever. And that's when everything changes, because now you're not thinking about the future, you're feeling the past, the years that passed, the time that disappeared, the moments you didn't use. And that feeling, it's heavy, because you can't change it, you can't fix it, you can't go back. All you can do is accept it and decide what happens next. But here's the truth. Most people wait for that moment. They wait to feel that shock, that urgency, that realization before they act. But that's a mistake, because by the time you feel it, you've already lost something, something valuable, something you can't get back. And that's why you shouldn't wait. You shouldn't wait for pain to motivate you. You shouldn't wait for regret to wake you up. You shouldn't wait for time to run out. Because by then, it's different. It's harder. It's heavier. So instead, you create that awareness now. You think about it now. You feel it now. Not in a negative way, but in a real way. Because once you understand that time is limited, you move differently. You think differently. You act differently. You stop delaying. You stop waiting. You stop wasting. Because now you know what it costs. You know what you're losing. You know what's at stake. And that changes everything. Because now every day matters. Every decision matters. Every moment matters. Not in a stressful way, but in a meaningful way. Because now you're not just living, you're aware. Aware of time, aware of choices, aware of consequences. And that awareness, it's powerful, because it forces you to take responsibility, to stop making excuses, to stop waiting, to stop acting like you have forever, because you don't. None of us do. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you change. Because the moment you realize you're running out of time is the moment you either panic or you act. And the difference between those two is everything. Because panic keeps you stuck, but action changes your life. So don't wait for that moment. Don't wait for that shock. Don't wait for that realization. Create it now. Feel it now. Understand it now. And use it as fuel to move, to act, to start. Because the clock is already ticking, whether you notice it or not. And one day, you will. The only question is, will it be too late or just in time?
You already know it. You've felt it. You've realized time is slipping. Opportunities are passing. Days are disappearing. And something needs to change. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. But here's the problem. Knowing isn't enough. Realizing isn't enough. Feeling urgency isn't enough. Because if it was, you would have already changed. You would have already started. You would have already moved. But you didn't. And that's because change doesn't come from emotion. It comes from decision. Clear, direct, uncomfortable decision to stop doing what you've been doing and start doing something different. Even when it feels unnatural. Even when it feels hard. Even when you don't want to. Because right now, your habits are controlling you. Your patterns are controlling you. Your routine is deciding your life, not you. So the first step is awareness. Not general awareness, specific awareness. Look at your day, closely, honestly, without excuses. Where is your time going? How much time are you spending on things that don't matter? Scrolling, watching, thinking, delaying, avoiding. Be honest, because until you see it clearly,
You can't change it. You can't fix what you don't recognize. And once you see it, you'll notice something. You don't lack time. You're misusing it. You're giving it away to things that don't give anything back. And that's the shift. From thinking, I don't have time, to realizing I'm not using my time properly. Because time is not the problem. Your choices are. So now you start small. Not everything, not your whole life, just one thing, one decision, one action that moves you forward, even slightly, even imperfectly. Because progress is not about perfection, it's about movement. And movement breaks patterns. Movement creates momentum. Movement changes direction. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Because none of those things will come first. You have to move before they show up. That's how it works. Action creates clarity. Action creates motivation. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. So you act, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, because that's where discipline begins. Not when it's easy, not when it's comfortable, but when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable, when you'd rather not do it. That's the moment that matters, because that's the moment that defines your future. Every time you choose action over comfort, you build something. You build discipline. You build control. You build a new identity. The identity of someone who moves, who acts, who doesn't wait. And that identity changes everything. Because now, you're not the person who delays. You're the person who starts. You're not the person who waits. You're the person who acts. And that shift, it's powerful. But it requires consistency, not intensity, not perfection, consistency. Daily action, daily movement, daily progress, even if it's small, even if it feels insignificant. Because those small actions, they add up, they compound, they create results over time. And that's how you stop wasting time. Not by doing everything at once, but by doing something every day. Something that matters, something that moves you forward, something that builds your future. Because every day you don't act, you lose something. But every day you do, you gain something. And over time, that difference becomes huge. The gap between who you are and who you could be closes, slowly but surely. And that's what you want. Not instant success, not overnight change, real progress, real movement, real growth. But you have to commit to it, not emotionally, not temporarily, but consistently. Because your old habits, they won't disappear. Your comfort won't go away. Your mind will still try to pull you back. It will still tell you, take it easy. You can do it later. It's not that important. And you'll feel it, that resistance, that hesitation, that desire to go back. But now you recognize it. Now you understand it. Now you don't follow it. Because you know where it leads. Back to the same life. Back to the same patterns. Back to the same regret. And that's not what you want anymore. So you choose differently. Every day. Even when it's hard. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it doesn't feel right. Because you're not chasing comfort anymore. You're building your future. And that requires effort. It requires discipline. It requires action. But it's worth it. Because the alternative is regret. And you've already seen what that looks like. So don't go back. Not now. Not after everything you've realized. Because you still have time. Right now, this moment, to do something different. To act. To move. To start. And that's all it takes. Not perfection. Not everything. Just one step. Taken seriously. taken consistently, taken today. Because today is where your future begins. Not later, not someday, today.
You keep thinking, there will be a better time, a better moment, a better version of you, a version that is ready, confident, certain, prepared. And when that version arrives, that's when you'll start. That's when you'll move. That's when everything will change. But that moment, it's not coming. Because time doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't pause until you figure things out. It doesn't slow down because you're unsure. It keeps moving, constantly, relentlessly, without asking you. And that's the truth most people avoid, because it's uncomfortable, because it removes control, because it forces you to face reality that you don't have unlimited chances, you don't have endless time, you don't have forever. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you change. Because waiting is not neutral. Waiting is a decision to do nothing, a decision to stay the same, a decision to let time pass without using it. And that decision has consequences, not immediately, not visibly, but over time. It builds, it compounds, it creates a life that looks fine but feels empty. A life where years pass but nothing changes. A life where you stay busy but not fulfilled. And one day you realize it. You see the pattern. You understand the cost. But by then, something is different. Time is shorter. Energy is lower. Opportunities are fewer. And the things you delayed, they're not as easy anymore. Not as available. Not as possible. And that's when it hits. That waiting didn't protect you. It cost you. Because time doesn't give second chances the same way. It gives you moments, opportunities, windows, and if you don't use them, they close, quietly, without warning. And once they close, they don't reopen the same way. Because life moves forward, circumstances change, you change, everything changes. And the version of you that could have taken that chance doesn't exist anymore. That moment is gone, that opportunity is gone, and all that's left is the realization that you had it and you didn't use it. And that's the pain. Not that you didn't have time, but that you didn't use it, because you thought there would always be more, because you believed you could always start later. But later is not guaranteed, and even when it comes, it's not the same, because time changes everything. It changes your options, your flexibility, your ability to take risks. Things that were easy before become harder. Things that were possible before become complicated. And that's the reality most people ignore until they can't, until it's too obvious, until it's too real, until they feel it. That weight, that realization that time didn't wait, that life moved forward without them. And now they're trying to catch up, trying to fix things, trying to do what they should have done earlier, but it's harder now. Not impossible, but harder. And that's the difference. Because if you act now, you move with time, you use it, you build with it. But if you wait, you fall behind it. And catching up is always harder than moving forward. So stop waiting. Stop telling yourself there's time. Stop believing that moment will come. Because the moment is now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, now. And if you don't act now, you're choosing not to act at all. Because tomorrow will feel the same. Next week will feel the same. Next year will feel the same. Because nothing changes until you do. Until you decide that waiting is no longer an option. That delay is no longer acceptable. That time is too valuable to waste. Because once you understand that, you move differently. You act differently. You think differently. You stop hesitating. You stop overthinking. You stop delaying. Because you know what it costs. You know what you lose. You know what happens if you don't act. And that awareness, it's powerful. Because it forces you to take control. To stop making excuses. To stop waiting for perfect. To stop acting like you have forever. Because you don't. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you change.
Because time will never wait for you, not for your fears, not for your doubts, not for your hesitation. It keeps moving, with or without you. And the only question is, are you moving with it, or are you letting it pass? Because one leads to progress, the other leads to regret. And that choice, it's yours, right now.
There's a moment. A quiet one. No noise. No distraction. No pressure from the outside. Just you and your thoughts. And in that moment, everything becomes simple. Not easy, but clear. You see two paths, not physically, not in front of you, but inside your mind. Two directions, two versions of your future. And the difference between them is one thing: a decision. On one side, there's the life you're already living, familiar, comfortable, predictable, safe. A life where you keep doing what you've been doing, keep delaying, keep waiting, keep telling yourself there's still time. And at first, it feels fine. Nothing changes, nothing breaks, everything continues. But slowly, quietly, something shifts. Time passes. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into years. And you don't notice it, not immediately. But one day, you feel it. That same moment we talked about. That quiet realization. That heavy awareness that it's not early anymore. That time has moved. That opportunities are gone. That the things you delayed didn't happen. And now, you're left with it. Not failure, not mistakes, but regret. The kind that doesn't leave, the kind that follows you, the kind that reminds you of what you could have done, but didn't. And that's one path, the path of comfort, the path of delay, the path of regret. And then there's the other path, the uncomfortable one, the uncertain one, the one you've been avoiding, the one that requires action, now, not later, not when you feel ready, not when everything is perfect. Now. And that path, it doesn't feel easy, it doesn't feel safe, it doesn't feel clear. It feels uncomfortable, it feels uncertain. It feels like you don't know what you're doing, because you don't. And that's okay, because starting is not about knowing everything. It's about doing something, taking one step, making one decision, moving forward, even when it feels unclear. And when you do that, something changes. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually. You build momentum. You gain clarity. You develop confidence. Not from thinking, but from doing. And over time, that path becomes different. It becomes real. It becomes yours. Because you created it. Because you chose it. Because you acted on it. And one day, you'll have another moment, another quiet moment, where you look back and you see your life, and this time it feels different, not perfect, but meaningful, not easy, but real, because you didn't wait, because you didn't delay, because you didn't choose comfort over action. And that's the difference between regret and fulfillment, between wishing and doing, between thinking and becoming. And the truth is, both paths are available, right now.
At this moment. Not in the future. Not later. Now. And you don't need more time to choose. You don't need more clarity to choose. You don't need more confidence to choose. You just need to decide. To stop waiting. To stop delaying. To stop telling yourself, there's time. Because time is already moving. And every second you hesitate, you're choosing, even if you don't realize it. Because not choosing is still a choice. A choice to stay the same. A choice to continue the pattern. A choice to move toward regret. And that's what most people do. Not because they want to, but because they don't decide. They let time decide for them. They let habits decide for them. They let comfort decide for them. And one day, they look back and realize they never actually chose their life. It just happened. And that's the real loss. Not time, not opportunity, but control. Because your life should not be something that just happens. It should be something you create, intentionally, deliberately, consciously. And that starts with one decision. Right now. To act, to move, to start. Not perfectly, not completely, but honestly. Because the only thing worse than failing is never trying. And the only thing worse than making mistakes is never giving yourself a chance. And the only thing worse than losing time is realizing you wasted it. So don't wait. Not this time. Not after everything you've realized. Not after everything you've felt. Because you already know. You already understand. You already see what's at stake. So use that. Use that awareness. Use that urgency. Use that realization as fuel to move, to act, to choose. Because one day you will have that moment, that quiet moment, that honest reflection. And when that day comes, you'll either say, I'm glad I started, or I wish I did. And that difference, it's not decided then, it's decided now, in this moment, with this choice. So choose wisely, because your future is not waiting, it's being created right now by what you do or don't do. And that's the truth. Simple, cold, real. Act now or regret later.